All right, happy Saturday, everyone. If you're located in Perth, I hope you have some plans to get out into this beautiful sunshine and spring weather. It's going to be 20 degrees today, so beautiful day before it starts getting warm in summer, and a nice change from the rain. Anyway, today's topic is why supplement retailers hate me and the one supplement that everyone could probably get away with taking. Now, obviously, I don't, no, there's not that many supplement retailers that know me, so, obviously they probably don't care what I have to say. But I was talking to a gym owner who sells supplements, and I was also talking to a competitor, not one of mine, he's coaching with someone else, who's also opened up a new supplement store as well. And it reminded me, well, we had a general discussion around, he was talking about what pre-workout he should be using and any other supplements leading into comp, because he's about 3 weeks out now, which is pretty close, right? And yeah, so it's interesting, and some of those ones were around, what protein powder, what pre-workout, and then what fat burners. And these are common questions that I get asked from, people who are just starting out with their health and fitness journey, and, experienced athletes and so on. And there's a couple of things. So, one, for the most part, a lot of supplements are actually just a waste of money. That's personal opinion. And you can save a lot of money if you're eating whole foods. Where supplements do, when you're increasing your training load with certain things, there's certain, and you're not necessarily hitting all those nutrients, then yeah, there is a case for certain vitamins and supplementation that can help. For the most part, if you're eating whole foods and eating regularly, you can get most of your nutrition, including your micronutrient needs and so on, from your food. So things like BCAAs, for example, probably a waste of money. If you're eating enough protein and enough protein from animal products, where you're getting complete amino acid profiles, you don't really need the BCAAs. For protein powder, again, if you're eating enough protein, then you shouldn't really need to have protein powder. And particularly when you're leading into a comp, you don't want anything that's processed, that might have some other ingredients in it, leading into comp. You want to be taking away any kind of dairy, usually, and you want to be taking out protein powder. Now, where protein powder is appropriate is, for example, where people are struggling to get in the amount of nutrients that they need. So if you've got someone who's sitting, that needs to hit, between 5 and 10,000 calories a day, which, certain athletes will need to do, they're probably not going to have time or the patience to necessarily digest the amount of meat that you would need to have to get to hit your protein needs, right? So it's a bit different. The other thing that can become useful for is for as a progression into potentially substituting meals or getting into regular eating. So, for example, when you're having smoothies, adding in protein powder so you get a bit more a macronutrient benefit, and getting into the habit of having that is a good way to do that. Post-workout as well, for some people that works quite well, particularly for guys where, potentially that post-workout window is a little bit more critical than it is for, say, females, for example. Um, the other one around pre-workout, well, in my opinion, pre-workout, probably the best one you can have is coffee. Of course, if you're working out in the evening, though, you're probably not going to want to have that much caffeine. Um, Sometimes even just having a pre-workout meal, sort of 1 to 3 hours before you're working out will be sufficient. Um, and yeah, like a lot of the pre-workouts have a lot of things that you don't need in them. If you're working out after work, for example, you're probably not going to want to take them unless you don't want to go to bed until after midnight. Um, and get used to just working out. Like, yeah, it's going to be hard. There's not going to be a workout that's going to help you to get that done. And sometimes, even something as simple as a bit of a hydrolyte could probably give you a better effect there, because you've got a little bit of magnesium, you've got some sodium bicarbonate, you've got some sodium in there, which all help you to convert energy anyway, and a lot less guff in it, right? The other thing is as well is that artificial sweeteners, I mean, they're processed, there's flavourings and everything like that. I would suggest that you could probably save your money and not have all that sort of stuff. In terms of fat burners, look, there are some compounds that will help you shift body fat, but that's really a redundant point if one, you're on point with your diet and you're actually in a calorie deficit and you're doing all the things that you need to do. Leading into a competition, for example, would take any of those sorts of compounds out anyway, because you don't want, again, anything that's got any artificial processed parts in it, fillers, and you want to be taking out as many minerals and everything because you're actually going into a bit of a complete depletion so that you're only manipulating water, salt, and all those sorts of things. So yeah, so essentially save your money. Don't worry about all this stuff. A lot of them are kind of 1%ers anyway. If you've got your nutrition down packed, if you've got your regular training in, then you'll be fine. But that brings me back to a point around, some supplementation that might have some benefits. And probably the one that has the most general appeal would probably be fish oil. So what a lot of people don't realise is that, and it's not so much fish oil that you need, it's just getting omega-3, right? So as part of a balanced diet or a whole foods diet and so on, one of the things that's really useful is to incorporate a little bit more seafood. It's great for your cognitive health, it's great for your overall health, and there's a couple of reasons why. So omega-3 is an anti-inflammatory part, and then we've got omega-6, which is pro-inflammatory. Now, none of those things are necessarily good or bad, but for optimal health, generally speaking, a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 is what we need, and it works really well for a whole number of reasons. What tends to happen with modern farming, so things like we've got farmed salmon or farmed beef and so forth, you'll find that either the omega-3 count of what those foods that naturally contain are either reduced, or in the case of beef, they have increased omega-6 and so on. A lot of processed foods means that we also have more omega-6 than what we're receiving from omega-3. And so what's actually happened is that most people are probably on a ratio of 1 to 10, or in some cases with extremely processed food and so on, a ratio of 1 to 25. So one of the things that we can do to correct that balance is to supplement something like fish oil, because obviously seafood is very expensive. Not a lot of people appreciate seafood, and then seafood and seafood are different again. So again, there's only certain parts of seafood that are going to give you that omega-3, without also adding to your omega-6 and so on. So that's probably one supplement that does really well because it helps with your joints, it helps with your cognitive health, helps with your hormonal health. So that's one supplement that you could probably get away with. And of course, you can get that from any supermarket or chemist. You don't necessarily need to go to a supplement retailer. Now, when you move into more athletic pursuits and things like that, then things like magnesium can help because you're going to be depleting your system a lot. Also, if you're finding yourself, if you have a few drinks on the weekend and so on, if you look at Preworkouts and stuff like that, the main ingredients of those are magnesium and vitamin B, which is why it generally helps if you get a hangover and so on. Now, I'm not advocating that you go and get shit-faced on the weekend and then, just try and correct that with Preworkouts and so on. But what I'm suggesting is that the first thing to go that gets depleted from your system from alcohol is, so if you drink, alcohol on a regular basis, then a little bit of magnesium supplementation can help, because that's one of the first things to get depleted from the system. And then the other thing is as well, if you're doing heavier training as well, magnesium can really help with muscle recovery and also with sleep. So so there's one. I just realised as well, I'm actually live on Facebook as well, whilst I'm on Instagram. And on my Facebook, you can't actually see my face. I just look like I'm doing an anonymous post. So there's extra drama on that one. Anyway, side note. So anyway, I hope you got something out of that. Let me know if you've tried any, what's your favourite pre-workout, or if you've used any particular protein powders that you have found some benefits for. Because it's always good to generate that kind of conversation. But for most of us, we don't probably need to worry about it. And confession, I don't use protein powder. I don't on my on-season and I don't on my off-season. I just get my protein from clean, lean proteins, meats, and egg whites and so on. You can actually do this without needing to use those sorts of things. But as I said, in some cases, it is actually appropriate. All right, let me know if you found that useful. And also, don't forget as well, the other thing I've done is I've created a private feed channel within this group, because what we found is that Facebook has actually changed some of the privacy settings. So when you're commenting or making questions in the public group, sometimes visitors and other people on your newsfeed can actually see that. The private channel should help with that, so make sure you actually, and I've done that as an optional part for you to join, but make sure if you do want to have more of a private discussion and so on without other people kind of viewing that, then join that private channel, and we'll make sure we answer your questions as they arise. All right, have a great weekend.